So, big story in the British press this morning is the leaks, the sources, the advisors coming out of Whitehall, which is where all the government mandarins and paper pushers and bureaucratic beetle-faced little scumbags work. Some may call it the deep state. It's just the permanent admin state, you know. Your civil servants who, regardless of who gets voted into power, they're there behind the scenes in their stupid bureaucratic machinations. So behind me, it says quite clearly, big letters, never forget. Never forget. A very strong word, never. They say never, but to never forget something that happened 80 years ago. It's important. I do believe it. You know, Hollywood constantly pumping out World War II movies, heartstring pulling, massive budget movies, Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List. There's that new one with Tom Hanks called Greyhound, where he's hunting Nazi submarines. Pretty good film, actually. So yeah, never forget. And this is why I raised this. So the irony, the irony, the FE on the periodic table is that the British government wants you to have a little certificate, a little pass, a little ID, a vaccine certificate. But the way they're easing it in, they're calling it the test negative twice in a week certificate, and you'll be allowed to lead a normal life, it says. Now, a lot of what you see in the newspapers and the media and these corporate-controlled news outfits is utter bullshit. So I read between the lines. Ministers may introduce Freedom Pass. Sources at Whitehall tell us. So until the fat lady sings, ladies and gentlemen, it's not real. But I do believe, I've seen it before in the BBC, Daily Mail, Daily Telegraph, Independent, The Guardian. They'll release things a few days in advance that the government are going to do or say or announce. And they leak it. And I think it's to test how the public will react. Now, on the Daily Mail website alone, you go to the comments section, and they're all pretty much saying what we say on the Charlie Veitch channel. What a disgusting way to sneak in dystopian, big government, totalitarian bloody policies. What a way to literally spit on the graves of our ancestors, our predecessors, those brave young men storming the beaches at Normandy. Jeez, can you imagine? You know, I've just been at a war memorial, Commonwealth graveyard this morning, having a look at Corporal Hampson, who died somewhere in France or Germany in 1943 as a 28-year-old. I was at his grave this morning. Isaac was playing with some flowers to get him to put the flowers back in the vase. That's someone's family member. So never again. Never again. And here we are, 2020. They're already doing it. As the joke goes, show me the papers in a German accent. About 20 years ago, they tried to bring in a national identity card system in this country. ID cards! Or was it 10 years ago? I forget. The decades, as they say, the evenings are long, but the years are short. Whew. We're not an ID country. We're not a showing papers country. We're not a jackbooted, fascist-looking police country. Have you seen the police in Spain or Portugal or Italy? Some of those uniforms, my God, they would look great standing alongside Benito Mussolini in World War II giving a fascist speech. And I've seen documentaries that, like, you know, Brits abroad, let's tag along with the Spanish police. You know, they go in first, and so different to the British police. They go in first, they see a mass brawl, there's people arguing, they'll go in first, they hit everyone, make sure everyone knows the police are there. Then they ask questions. Can you imagine doing that here? No. So in my darkest nightmares, I think that there aren't people at these big pharmaceutical companies. I don't think it's possible to sneak a sterilizing ability or a mass depopulation, murderous, death by lethal injection. I don't think it's possible for people to sneak that into a vaccine. I don't think the wildest dreams of Alex Jones are correct. I don't think that's how it's going to work. But what I do think is going to work, this is why conspiracy theory is so popular. Because if you zoom out far enough, on a large enough scale, you can see how it's all puppets on strings and it's all moving. The universe moves. The superclusters down to the galaxies, down to the solar systems, down to the planet, down to the surface, down to the people, down to the Newtonian scale, down to the quantum scale, down to the quarks, down to the very potentiality of 1 or 0 on the Planck scale. It can look like someone's organizing it, but no one is. Or, if rich, powerful people having big meetings at Bilderbergs and Davoses, they have lots of competing groups, a lot of egos, a lot of people fighting. So, I don't think it's possible to sneak in a sterilizing, Children of Men, Hollywood style, no one has babies. I don't think it's possible to sneak in a lethal injection onto the vaccine, because here's the thing. There's good people everywhere. There's people having enlightenments everywhere. There's people realizing deep truths about themselves everywhere. Whether you work as a lab rat, you're a scientist, whether you're a stockholder, a shareholder in one of these companies, there's people having epiphanies the entire time. So bad plans get leaked, especially in the West. Bad plans get leaked. There's a conspiracy of good people, and we're everywhere. So, yesterday I was reading about mRNA vaccines. RNA vaccine for short. It's a new type of vaccination. Now here's how it looks from the Veitch view. So, I went to the Wikipedia entry. I thought, let's keep it mainstream. It got footnotes, they've got bibliographies. I can research, I can actually follow sources to see if it's true. And in the mRNA vaccine Wikipedia entry, all normies need to read it. Jesus effing Christ. When my parents in their 70s, my mum phones me, and my mum, who is the most mainstream lady on earth, she tells me, Charlie, we're going to sit this vaccine out for a year or so just to see who gets messed up by it. So you go into the vaccination Wikipedia mRNA and you go to the potential problems, and this is in the words of the scientists. They say, oh yeah, we've never had an mRNA vaccine before, absolutely brand new technology, no track record, past performance, we don't know, it's first time. And, usually a vaccine takes 10 years to develop, a decade, maybe more, to develop. Because you just don't know what's going to happen. Now with an mRNA vaccine, and again, what I understand is, in the vaccine there's a genetic instruction, artificial instruction that goes into your cells, and it changes the code in your cell to produce antigens, which I guess are antibodies to fight the virus. Now, that sounds risky to me. No wonder it takes 10 years to study the old vaccine. Maybe this new vaccine might take 20 years. And then the scientists say, look, we're putting new instructions into a cell from the outside to do things. We have no idea what the long-term consequences. We do not, and it's in the Wikipedia, you'll see it, we do not know if this vaccine may cause out-of-control cancers in the medium to long term. But then they say, oh, it's fine though, because there's a massive public demand because of the pandemic. We'll vaccinate 5-6 billion people, ladies. Can you imagine? The Swedish doom goblin would be happy, Can you imagine the lowering of pollution, climate change, global warming? If within 10 years there's only 2 billion of us because 6 billion took the vaccine and then it was a bit rushed and a bit thalidomide-y. Thalidomide, ladies and gentlemen. Pandemics, ladies and gentlemen. The swine flu scandal, ladies and gentlemen. Channel 4 News exposed the big pharmaceutical companies scamming frightening, terrifying the public and the governments to buy these rushed vaccines. 10 years ago, there was a vaccine called Pandemrix, and it ended up injuring thousands of children, giving them autoimmune diseases, including narcolepsy. Can you imagine you're a little kid, you got your whole life ahead of you. The big pharma companies, oh, you might get a bad seasonal flu, so let's put the vaccine in you. Next thing you know, you're falling asleep all day, you've got autoimmune problems. Your chances at a happy life are gone. Hey, but at least you won't get swine flu. Ladies and gentlemen, so it all ties in. So vaccine passport? Nah. Freedom pass? Because then, can you imagine actually believing there's another man, woman, grown-up, child, there's someone outside of you, outside of your soul, your person, yourself, who has the ability to tell you whether you're allowed to be free, whether you're allowed to go to A to B to C to be free? No. All our ancestors, all those young men fighting Nazis, fighting Stalinists, all those proxy conflicts of the Cold War, because we are not a social state superstructure controlling gulaggy, concentration campy, secret police, show the papers. We're not that kind of country. And for British officials, including the media, they're all in on it. The scumbags. Behavioral insight teams, behavioral scientists. Hey public, look, just take the vaccine. You might get cancer in a few years' time. You know, we're going to do it to 5-6 billion of you. Take the vaccine, and then you'll be allowed to go back to your office. You'll be allowed to go into a shop. You won't have COVID marshals asking you where your mask is, because you'll have a little bracelet, you'll have a little collar. Hey, why don't we just give them a tattoo on their arm, just right there? A little tattoo, 1676, like we used to do at Auschwitz and Krakow and all the other, just give them a tattoo, because then you know they're safe. I was scared a few months ago, but I've realized on the, was it Laszlo's order of need and want, they say, ladies and gentlemen, that food, water, and shelter are the #1 priorities for a human being on Earth. I disagree. That's a very materialistic view. The #1 priority for every human being on Earth is dignity and self-worth. And when people try and take that away from you, food, water, shelter, those things can wait. It may be time to riot. It may be time to have a civil war. And people freak out. Oh my God, war. People die in a war. People will die in a war. Ladies and gentlemen, how many deaths are you willing to have for your soul just today alone? Or for your family or your kids bending over and being told what to do? It's easy to talk of war. War is a last resort. Of course, right now, it's easier for me, and it's still legal, to come onto YouTube and speak my thoughts. But if I get shut down, if they shut down the channel, if I'm not allowed to buy food because I'm not wearing the little bracelet saying that I've had the vaccine, then yeah, I mean, everyone has to do it. See, in France, yeah? France in the World War IIs, Nazi tanks strolled in, a bit of resistance. The French haven't been historically very good at formal military resistance. But then what became immortalized as a legend is the French resistance, la résistance. They even had a character in the South Park movie, do you remember? La résistance will never die. And that's the thing that you think those froggies, sorry, those Frenchmen, they couldn't, you know, like, okay, like in Paris, Vichy government, Nazis in government, you still go about your daily life, but no. Jean-Pierre et les autres, they still decided to blow up Nazis, kill Nazis, put their own families at risk. Because guys, dignity and self-worth is more important than food and shelter. This is Charlie Veitch from outside the Salford Town Hall in Swinton on Sunday, the 22nd of November. Thank you for watching.